equilibrium point x equals 0, there exists continuously differentiable function v of x and t that maps d in the real numbers into real numbers such that 1 v of x and t is positive definite. And like I said in this course, you can think of this now, we're always going to use a quadratic form for v, so you can think of it right away now is just think of it as a kind of a bowl shape, a bowl of ellipses, that's fine. Because that's what we're going to be doing in this course. And v of x and t is decrescent. And 3, v dot of x and t is negative definite in d. Then x equals 0 is uniformly asymptotically stable. Okay, but remember that this is like a local result. We're talking about a local quality. So it's not uniformly asymptotically stable everywhere. So we have v dot is negative semi-definite in D. So there's this region D where it's negative semi-definite. So there's going to be a smaller region where we're going to have uniform asymptotic stability. Okay, so it's not uniformly asymptotically stable everywhere or even in D. It's going to be a much smaller region than D where things are uniformly asymptotically stable. So this is the useful theorem that we get to, because this one we can actually design control systems with, because if something's asymptotically stable, then it's ending up at its equilibrium point as t goes to infinity. So if we've made our equilibrium point at 0 error, then if we have something that's uniformly asymptotically stable, our error is going to 0. So if the error is going to 0, that's good for a control system. People like that. We don't have any guarantee on how fast it goes to 0, so that's kind of a drag compared to linear systems. Linear systems, the error would go to 0 in exponential time, which people really like as well. So as a nonlinear system, you don't have that kind of guarantee. It might go in exponential time. And in fact, people design nonlinear controllers, some nonlinear controllers, to converge even faster than exponential time, even faster than linear controls. They call them finite time controllers. So with nonlinear control, you can do all kinds of things. So, but if you're just strictly applying this theorem, really to see how fast you go to 0, you have to try it out. You have to do it by experiment, basically. There's probably no, by just applying this particular theorem, there's probably no guarantee on how fast you get to 0. So the performance could still be unsatisfactory. Because yeah, you might get to 0 eventually, but maybe it's too slow. So it's not actually a practical controller that people would be happy with. So you kind of have to, in nonlinear control, there's a lot of mathematical analysis where you try to prove something is stable, but often for performance, you have to go and test the system to show the performance, which is different than linear control, because in linear systems, you can do everything in the math. You never have to test it. Theoretically. You just do your linear system, you can prove that it's stable, what the performance is, all your conditions, and then people might think that testing is even rather silly, because obviously you've proven all the qualities of linear control. Nonlinear control is a little different. You know, you get these stability qualities, but you still really don't know how the performance is going to be until you try it. So testing is also a very important part of nonlinear control usually. So let's take a 10-minute break. Come back here at, well, let's take a 15-minute break. Come back here at 20 to 4, and we'll start up again. I'll give you some examples of how this works. So how's all this math going this time around?
Well, I had your last class, so I'm a little bit warmed up to it, but
I seem to recall you didn't like all the math last time.
yeah, still don't like it. I like the end result of knowing how it all works, but I think it's always going to be painful whenever I have to read the math jargon, but I'll decode it eventually and then I'll get the hang of it. I figured it out last time after all.
Okay, good.
Right? I think I got a decent mark in that.
What did you do your project on last time again?
I had
quad rotor?
Yeah, quad rotor, and then I had a neural network that it responded to a sinusoidal disturbance. I think is what I did for that one.
But you should, you're pretty, you're on a head start for this project, so you should try and do something tricky with this project, difficult.
Yeah.
Challenge yourself a little bit.
That's the thing. Yeah, I'm not sure what exactly would be perfect yet, but trajectory tracking seems like a good idea. Or maybe simulating like a two-member kind of robot arm, because that's a chaotic system, isn't it? You have a double pendulum, so you try and control something like that.
Well, it is the simulation I'm giving people is a two-link robot, and that is a chaotic system because it's fourth order.
Oh, okay.
Because there's two positions and two velocities.
Oh, okay.
So it is a chaotic system.
Oh,
but
okay.
like a chaos controller, I described this in the first lecture. A chaos controller for that would be like if you didn't have, like, say you were trying to balance straight up, but you didn't actually have enough torque in your motors to do that motion because your motors are like weak. So what you could do is you could just have your motors cancel out friction, and that's all they do.
Okay.
And then you create this like chaotic motion, and then eventually it should be close to this position, and then as soon as it gets close, your motors just try and capture it there.
Oh, okay.
So that's like a way to do a chaos control for like a robot arm. I'm not sure if there's any practical application for that, but it's kind of neat. I've tried it out before; it actually works.
Could design a kind of a useless robot that there's only one motor in the shoulder joint, but this is totally uncontrolled, and so you sort of flop it around until you can reach the end one. That would be a very nonlinear system to try and control. That might be a bit ambitious, and also slightly useless. But
it's pretty common in literature that people do the double inverted pendulum, is what they call it.
Oh, is that it?
And so they do it like what you described is a bit easier, because usually what they have is like what they're controlling is like a cart that goes back and forth, and they have this double pendulum on top of the cart. But it's a bit easier what you described. You actually have torque at the bottom that you can control rather than a cart position. So that makes it a little more straightforward. But you can balance this thing using only the one motor, basically.
Oh, okay.
But I'd have to take a look at the equations to see how easy these systems we're using in this course, because there's a lot of papers out there that do nonlinear control using feedback linearization, which I don't teach in this course.
Oh, okay.
Because feedback linearization assumes you have like this perfect model of the system.
Oh, yeah.
But it's so unrealistic for nonlinear systems that it's never used in real life, so I don't teach it.
Oh, okay.
Because in a nonlinear system, you never have a good model of your system. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like it's like even a robot, you could spend like a year with a team of engineers to get your perfect model for the robot to have feedback linearization that works, and then you pick up something and no longer works anymore because the payload changes the model, right?
Yeah.
So it's such a useless control technique that I don't teach it.
Oh, okay.
And it's hard to make. People have started making it adaptive and stuff, which kind of makes it practical, but it's really complicated.
Oh,
to try and make it adaptive.
So feedback linearization, that's sort of like the adaptive control where it learns the unknown parameters. And
we'll do adaptive controls in this course.
So that's using a neural network to learn the system as it's going, right? And then you're canceling out the nonlinear component of it. So I guess if you have a perfect model, you could just plug that in directly, right? Is that sort of what you're getting at?
Yeah, well, feedback linearization is where you cancel out all the nonlinearities and you just have like a linear model left.
Oh, okay.
So you basically just, after the feedback linearization part, then you just design a linear control.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's what we were doing, except we were using the neural network for the feedback linearization, I guess, instead of directly plugging in a math function for it.
Yeah, but I guess if you do that for like a, like a system like a double inverted pendulum, it's super complicated.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
much more complicated than I could cover in one course. It's like a PhD topic, basically. It gets ridiculously complicated.
Yeah.
I'm trying to cover just practical topics in this course
Yeah.
that you would actually use in real life.
Mm-hmm. Well, what would be a more practical one then, I guess, for to make an arm interesting? Or,
Well, like I suggested on the T2L, you could do force velocity control or force position control, like a hybrid controller. Like it's interacting with an environment. You're trying to produce a certain. You're trying to, like, you could have a drawing on a chalkboard, for instance. So it has to follow a certain path to make the letters, but also has to push with a certain amount of force to do the.
Oh, I see. So you have to apply.
Or like a surgical robot, you need that too. Like if you're making an incision, you need to follow a path to make the incision, but you have to be pressing with a certain amount of force as well.
Ooh, yeah, that could be
At the
tricky.
same time.
That's interesting. Yeah. Lots of options. I can still take some time to figure out the coolest ideas though.
Hey, Preston, are you pausing the video during the break?
Question, Chris.
Yeah.
Are those going online?
I'm sharing them with one student who can't make it to Canada this semester. So she's gonna follow the things remotely. But I might use these videos for a subsequent version of the course, we'll see. Then I don't have to show up. I have to do a really good job lecturing this time. Next time I'll
one of
just,
those Khan Academy stuff.
Yeah.
next time the students will show up and there's just a grad student showing a video of me lecturing.
Well, I'm taking a course with George Messier, and he's got all of his lectures recorded, and his lecture time is basically just a Q&A.
Yeah. I could do that in this course too. Might be a good idea.
It is kind of nice because I took this course last year, and it's neat because you kind of come in and just kind of chat, you talk about sort of esoteric concept.
I'll have to see how the videos turn out. So if the videos are clear, then I might do it. But if you can't, if it's hard to make out my messy writing or something, I might not do it.
He also has it written quizzes beforehand, so you're sort of forced to actually just make sure everybody's actually on the material. At least that's what he's doing last year.
Yeah, he has that, and he also has a participation mark.
Yeah.
So that you have to come to lectures and you have to ask questions.
I'm kind of torn because I don't really believe in making grad students write quizzes or tests or anything. I don't let them do projects. On the other hand, it drives me nuts when none of the grad students know any of the notation I'm writing on the board either. So that's why I made them do the quiz on the appendices.
Yeah.
I've had people come to my office like have no idea what like a norm is or something.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's pretty annoying. And the most annoying thing is, this is like, when you do your project, if you're going to use this theorem to prove stability, you're going to actually have to go into your notes of the textbook and make sure you know what the conditions are and carefully apply them. There's nothing that drives me nuts more than a cricket student that doesn't bother to look at their notes and just kind of vaguely remembers, oh, v dot is less than 0, therefore it works. It's like, no, apply the theorem. Or sometimes students make up stuff. V dot is less than 0, therefore it's universally stable. No, I didn't use the term universally stable in this course. It doesn't actually exist, and no, you can't just say V dot is less than 0 and walk away. So if you don't want to get a really bad mark in your project, first thing to do would be to properly apply whatever theorem you're using, making sure that you're showing all the conditions of that.
How many people build something for their project?
Build? Don't build something.
Okay.
That's like a thesis, that's not a project.
Okay.
Unless you already have an experiment up and running
Yeah.
with a control system working on it, and all you have to do is like reprogram the control system. But unless you have that set up already, then you don't want to do it for a course project because you'll never finish it in time.
Okay. Thank you.
Although, you probably could build a Lego robot in time and program it if you're into Lego robots. Those are pretty quick
Or
to set up.
just buy some servos, build a linkage.
Yeah, but then you have to buy the microcontroller, program the microcontroller, all that. It's a time-consuming operation.
Mhm.
But if you set up the Lego, you can download, you can program the Lego in C nowadays. So it's, or Java or whatever. So it's actually pretty quick. If you already know how to do it, it's pretty quick. If you weren't familiar with it, it'd be a learning curve. Probably would be able to do it in time.
I'm sticking with software.
Sorry?
I'm sticking with software.
Yeah. So, have a go with that. Guess not.
Finger.
Finger.
That'd be very rushing. That'd be very good.
Sorry? I don't think it's possible.
So the person watching is recorded real time.
Sorry?
I was wondering if it's real time when the person's watching it.
Not in real time.
Should I wave at the camera? Freak them out.
That was the idea. Just buy a bigger set or just fold it to just make it easier. Okay, so I was making this point before where I was saying there's Lyapunov theorems for autonomous systems and for non-autonomous systems. So I'm going straight to the non-autonomous systems. So there are actually, there's a Lyapunov theorem for like just v of x rather than v of x and t. It's like a bit simpler. But I'd like to point out that this isn't actually as complicated as it looks at first glance because the t in our course, like I said, is going to, when we see t in this course, it's going to be because of the desired trajectory. So you're trying to follow sine t or something like that. And so t is going to end up explicitly in v dot. So you will see the v dot here. So we'll definitely have a v dot of x and t. And that's why I have to apply this theorem. But our v that we're going to use, we're always going to use a quadratic form like x transpose times a matrix times x. So this will actually be v of x. So we won't actually see a v of x and t, although I have to write that in the theorem. So it's a bit simpler than it looks. And therefore, it's automatically going to be decrescent. The only way something could not be decrescent is if it depended on t. If something doesn't even depend on t, and it's positive definite, it's just going to be decrescent anyway. So everything we do in this course, we're going to be able to look at our x transpose times a matrix times x, and right away say it's positive definite decrescent because there's no t involved in my v. So these conditions are pretty easily met for everything we're going to do in this course. It's the v dot being negative definite that will be the tricky part. Okay. So let's look at an example. x1 dot equals x2, x2 dot equals negative x1 minus x2. So I'm going to pick V to be x1, x2. And I'm going to have a matrix 1.5, 0.5, 0.51. And here the eigenvalues of this matrix are 0.69 and 1.8. So again, for now it's kind of secret information. I'm kind of coming up with these numbers. I'll show you how to do it in a bit yourself. So for now I'm just going to use this V to prove the stability of my system there. So I can say that V is between 0.68 times the norm of x and 1.9 times the norm of x. So V is both positive definite and decrescent. So again, because V doesn't depend on time, then the decrescent part is kind of trivial. It's, right away it's decrescent if it's positive definite. So I don't really have to worry about it being decrescent or not, but I should mention it to apply the theorem properly. So just make a note. If the matrix wasn't symmetric, I would change it to a symmetric one. Kind of without loss of generality, so it's, I'm not really going to worry about if these things are symmetric or not. So V dot equals negative x1 squared minus x2 squared is negative definite. Therefore, x equals 0 is uniformly asymptotically stable by the theorem that I just put up on the board. So you can kind of go through and calculate V dot yourself and just verify I got the right answer there. So what I want to do is relate the theorem to the stability definition. So I have a stability definition, or uniformly asymptotically stable definition, and what that means, that uses an epsilon and a delta. I have this theorem. I haven't proved the theorem. So I don't want to actually prove it in general, but I'm going to go through and show you why it works for these ellipses if we stick with these quadratic forms. So it's pretty straightforward to show why the theorem works in the case of these quadratic forms, these ellipses. So let's show. So I'm not going to exactly prove the theorem, but I'll kind of show why the theorem works without a formal proof, because it's probably more useful to us or interesting to us. So let's recall the definition of uniform asymptotically stable. So basically you give me epsilon and the way it works is you want x of t to remain within a ball of radius epsilon for all time. So basically it's bounded by epsilon. And because it's asymptotically stable, you want x of t to go to 0 as t goes to infinity. then what I need to do is I need to calculate delta for the initial condition to ensure this, that I do stay within your ball of radius epsilon. So let's do this using this. So now I just said there was some method of calculating delta. So actually I'm going to go show you now how to actually calculate delta. So let's and this is only going to work for ellipses. So a way to calculate delta is to use an ellipse. So let's have this equation of ellipse. Obviously, A, B, C, and D are constants here. So I want to make a symmetric matrix, so I would put 1/2 B on the diagonals. So there's no unique choice for this matrix kind of in general, but if I wanted a symmetric matrix, there is actually a unique symmetric matrix that will do this for me. So I have D equals X transpose PX. P is a 2x2 symmetric matrix. So what I want to do, in order to calculate a delta based on your epsilon, is that I want this ellipse to fit just inside your circle of radius epsilon. So you've challenged me with this ball of radius epsilon here. So I'm trying to come up with initial conditions so I stay within your ball of radius epsilon. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw an ellipse just inside your ball of radius epsilon. So that's kind of the first part of my calculation that's going to help me find a value for delta. So this is my D equals X transpose PX. So since I can say that X transpose PX is less than the minimum eigenvalue of P times the norm of X squared, or it's greater than that I should say, and less than the maximum eigenvalue of P times the value of X squared, the norm of X squared I should say. And just to remind you of what I mean by the 2 norm, it's the square root of x1 squared plus x2 squared. Hopefully that's pretty obvious to you by this point in the course. Otherwise, you're probably pretty lost in previous lectures. Everyone had that. Remember, just scream if I'm about to erase something that you haven't written down yet. So I could write D equals norm of x squared times P min, and solve for x squared equals D over P min. So I Or here I'm talking about the big circle. Radius square root of d over p min equals epsilon. And I also have a point where d equals x squared times p max. The norm of x squared equals d over p max. So here I end up with a small circle radius. Square root of d over p max. And I'll use this small circle for my value of delta. Okay, so you've challenged me with the ball of radius epsilon. The first thing that I did was I drew an ellipse in here that fits just within your ball of radius epsilon. So I used my formula, epsilon equals d over p min, basically to solve for d. So I'm going to solve that equation for d. Right, that gives me that ellipse, because d defines what the ellipse is.